What's up, Archons? I'm Flightless Pheasant, and my new computer is here, which means I'm back to making content on a regular schedule. Expect to see my face a little bit more frequently now. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but the first thing I want to talk about is the last thing I wanted to talk about before my computer stopped working, and that is the content creator spoilers for Prophetic Visions. So as many of you know, during the Pledge Manager period of the Prophetic Visions Gamefound, many of my fellow content creators got to spoil a bunch of cards. And that was about 4 weeks ago now, so I feel like you guys have had plenty of time to look at it on their channel, but I'd like an opportunity to put it all together in one place and react to it myself so that we can all talk about what we think about these cards now that they've all been put out. So with that in mind, I'm going to go through the cards. I'm not going through them in the order they were released or by groups. I'm kind of doing it in the order they're likely to be appearing numerically in the set, because that's just generally how I like to talk about things. So with that in mind, let's get into it. So the first card I'm going to talk about is called Go Forth and Conquer. Like many of the first few cards we're going to talk about, this is a prophecy card. So prophecy is a new type of card that is out of play at the beginning of the game, and then during the main play phase of your turn, you can bring one of your prophecies into play and put a card from your hand underneath it, and then when the prophecy is fulfilled, you will get to reveal the card underneath and resolve any fate effect that card might have. So these first few are prophecies, and this one is called Go Forth and Conquer. Go Forth and Conquer says, during your opponent's turn, after an enemy creature is used to fight, fulfill Go Forth and Conquer. This is a pretty cool prophecy. I like the art for this one quite a bit. It doesn't seem like it would be all that hard to fulfill, and if your opponent has a deck that really wants to fight, this could possibly disturb their plan quite noticeably. So I actually like this one quite a bit. The next prophecy card we have to look at is called Outlook Not So Good. Outlook Not So Good says, after your opponent chooses an active house that matches no cards in play, fulfill Outlook Not So Good. So this one's great if you manage to go first or in the first couple of turns of a game, but after the game's got a little momentum, this one's probably not going to be quite so good. But in fairness, you're going to have 4 prophecy cards per deck, and so getting this one so that you can get some early fates off is probably worth it, assuming your other 3 don't also want to be used in the early part of the game. Also, you want to talk about cool art. Man, look at that ship in a storm. That's super cool. The next prophecy card is called Stars Aligned. Stars Aligned says at the start of your opponent's turn, if each player has the same number of creatures, fulfill Stars Aligned. So this is the first prophecy I've seen where basically you as the active player pretty much have full control over whether this one goes off or not, because I'm not aware of any way to sneak a creature in between the end of when I can put out creatures and the beginning of when my opponent's turn starts. So this is kind of a sneaky prophecy that's like a pretty easy way to get your fate effects to go off if you can get the board to balance, which, as we all know, with Winds of Exchange and Tokens of Change and certain other sets that put out a lot of cards, it could be really difficult, especially because this set doesn't look like it has that same amount of creature velocity. So it might be hard to get the board even in the first place, but if you can, this one's a sure bet. Okay, so those are the prophecy cards that we got to see. Now let's take a look at the discards that got spoiled. So the first one is called Grave Bounty. It's 1 amber action that says play, purge a card from your discard pile. If you do, your opponent loses 2. Or fate, purge the top 2 cards of your discard pile. Both of these are pretty good. I like the play effect a lot better than the fate effect, because if I'm losing a card from my discard pile no matter what, I'd rather get to pick it and my opponent loses 2 and I gain 1. That's just way better. Purging the top 2 cards of my discard pile as a fate effect is kind of bad. I don't really like it. Yeah, I don't know. Also, you're going to notice a stunning lack of flavor text. I think in this entire batch of 12 cards, there's like 1 with flavor text. I don't know, GG. I like it. I guess maybe other people don't care, but I like it. The next card we're going to look at is called Poised Strike. This is also a discard. It's an upgrade that gives you an amber when you play it, and it says, if this creature would be readied, destroy it instead, which is pretty good. And Fate, skip your ready card step this turn. Also really good. Both of these are just really, really solid effects. I can get use out of either one pretty reliably, because Poise Strike is pretty much a kill, or at the very least, it means that creature's going to get used one more time, unless they can get rid of the upgrade. And the Fate effect, I mean, preventing your opponent from being able to ready cards is always devastating. So yeah, no, I like both of these. And from Dis, we're going to move on to Logos. And in Logos, we have 2 cards to look at. The first one is Bit Bite. It's a 2-power AI creature with Skirmish that says, after fight, put the creature Bit Bite fights into its owner's archives, which isn't too bad. A little bit of board denial there, and on a Skirmish creature, could be worth it. Or as a Fate effect, your opponent archives the bottom card of their deck. That one's probably not as good. I feel like with a lot of these cards, what they've done is they've made the base card really good and made the Fate effect less good, so that you kind of want to play it rather than use its Fate. But some of the Fate effects are really, really stellar, as we'll see when we get further on. This one, though, I think probably just play the creature, do a little board control. Our second Logos card is called Designer Crick. It's a 3-power, 2-armor scientist that says, each time your opponent discards a card from their hand, draw a card, and Designer Crick captures one. This one does have flavor text. Woo! And its flavor text says, good scientists copy, visionaries steal. So, a couple of thoughts on this card. It's really uncommon to see a Logos creature with armor, so that's kind of neat. This card combos really well with any forced discard effects, but I don't think we've seen any of those in this set, so I'm not quite sure how often it's actually going to kick, but if you can get it to kick, there's some real value to be had there. And from Logos, we move to Sanctum, where we again have 2 cards to look at. The first card is an action called Benevolent Charity. Benevolent Charity has 3 capture enhancements on it, and says, play, move each amber on friendly creatures to the common supply, which is incredible. Sanctum in this set looks like it's going to be doing a lot of capturing, and the idea that I can just make all of that amber go away, beautiful. And then its Fate effect says each enemy creature with amber on it captures one. So remember, of course, that Fate effects are resolved by your opponent, so that would mean each of your creatures with amber on it would capture one when your Fate effect goes off and your opponent resolves it. Also not bad, but I love the first effect better. Again, most of these cards that have Fate effects, I feel like they made the normal effect better than the Fate effect, so that you'll want to play it instead of use it as a Fate. But you never know. Fates can be really, really swingy, and they interrupt your opponent's turn, so that's probably part of why. Benevolent Charity, very, very nice card. Like it quite a lot. The second Sanctum card we have to look at is an action again called Broken Intent. This one gives you an amber, and it's one of the cards that lets you choose which effect you want. So it says, play, choose one. Each player discards their archives, or purge an action card in a discard pile. So this is more archive hate, and it's again at a common, so I think that they're really trying to double down on that archives are not as safe as they used to be, and possibly not even very safe at all. Each player discards their archives is at least double-sided, but purging an action from a discard pile could be really devastating in the right deck under the right circumstances, so I like this card quite a bit. From Sanctum, we move to Saurian, where we have 1 card. This is Marcella the Younger, a 4-power dinosaur that has after fight / after reap, you may exalt Marcella the Younger. If you do, draw 2 cards. I love Saurian draw. I love Saurian self-exalt for value. This is just a good card. I really, really wish this one had flavor text, because I want to know more about Marcella the Older, Marcella the Senior, or how they're related to Marcella the Younger. It just really feels like this could have been an opportunity. I've also noticed that this card has a little bit of a sort of pastel cartoony art style that I kind of like for KeyForge. It feels like it's actually kind of at home in a game that's as tongue-in-cheek as KeyForge is. From Saurian, we move to Star Alliance, and again, we just have 1 card to look at here. This one's called Cosmic Recompensance. Cosmic Recompensance is an action that says play, deal 3 damage to an enemy creature. If it's not destroyed, steal 1 and repeat the preceding effect. Because of where the period is on that, you're always going to get to deal 3 damage to 2 different enemy creatures, and if they're not destroyed, you'll steal 1. So you could steal up to 2 with this. which is really good because of where they put the period in that one. This card basically does this twice, pretty much no matter what. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. But the fate effect on this one is nuts. Fate, end your turn. So this is going to be one of those cards that people are scared of when you put it under a prophecy. Because if the prophecy works out right, like let's say you put this under a Stars Align and you know that your opponent has the same amount of creatures as you, you can force them to skip their turn, which is really potent. Like Cosmic Recompensance is going to be one of those ones you have to keep an eye out for and be ready to try to deal with, but under the right circumstances, there's just going to be nothing you can do. Your opponent's just going to make you skip a turn, and you're just going to have to live with it, which is rough. And the last card we're going to look at is from House Untamed, and this is called Crystalline Harvest. It's an action that gives you an amber when you play it, and says play for the remainder of the turn, gain an amber each time you play an action card, which is super solid, especially since it gives you an amber itself. Untamed actions have a tendency to be pretty good, so putting an extra amber pip basically on each of them sounds amazing. Or, as a fate effect, it says for the remainder of the turn, lose an amber each time you play an action card. So again, this would affect your opponent, and this would make it kind of a arsonometer, but like not quite as strong, which could be worth it under the right circumstances, but I feel like most of the time you're probably just going to want to give yourself an extra amber each time you play a action card, assuming you have at least one or two more actions to play. It'll probably be worth it. And those are all the cards that got spoiled by my fellow content creators about 4 weeks ago. I wanted to do this video a lot sooner, but didn't really have an opportunity. I hope you guys liked taking a look at all of them. I hope you appreciated my commentary. I think it's a good idea to like put all these things together so that they're all in one place, and we all have an opportunity to look at them and share our thoughts about them. Do check out the content creators who posted these. If you haven't already, great people in the entire community. I'm really glad that we all get to enjoy this game together. Look out for more videos from me on the horizon. I definitely have things that I want to put out. I have been chomping at the bit to try to get some of this stuff out, but with my computer being non-functional, I just couldn't. But now I've got a brand new computer, everything's running really smoothly, and hopefully that means you'll be seeing a lot more of me in the near future. So that's all I have for you today. So until next time, later, Archons.